How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to City Skylines, welcome back to Plazas and Promenades, and welcome back to the city of Nerdholm. In the last episode, we transformed the district formerly known as Middle into Dale Hills, which is a space made up of European-style buildings with an emergency services hub right at the middle, with helicopters, high-capacity police headquarters, a high-capacity fire station, and a regular old hospital right there at the center of the district. And who could forget that we went south towards the lake and built Nerdholm Castle, which is undoubtedly a historical amalgamation of different styles and purposes. Perhaps in medieval times it was the seat of power for the kingdom, and then going into the 1800s, they perhaps built a fort on the water as some kind of prison. And then at the turn of the 20th century, as we go into the First and eventually Second World Wars, we have some turrets, we have some artillery, we have some cannons that are there for some battle that might have raged in these fields once upon a time. And as dorky as that might sound, I can't suggest enough creating stories for things that you build in cities' skylines. It sometimes helps to set places in stone, in this case, literally, but it helps to establish districts and ideas, and it helps you, I think, get better clarity on what you want to do. I feel like I'm being very pretentious, but hopefully you get my point. And so turning to today and what I want to get done, I want to continue to expand good old Nerdholm, and I want to start dealing with some of the traffic problems that we're having. But before we do that, you might have spotted that Oak Garden looks a little bit different, and it certainly does. We have a massive boundary of oak trees surrounding the entire district and all of the roads within it. And it does look a little bit overgrown, but that is absolutely intentional, because this space is supposed to be somewhat similar to St. James's Park and Green Park around Buckingham Palace, with Constitution Hill and the Mall both being flanked on either side by giant, not overgrown, but quite natural looking trees. So this is very deliberately designed to look like, well, that in the center of London, and it does create this channel of trees that leads us straight towards City Hall. And that's where I want to get started today, because I've had an idea, and it's something I've been sitting on for just a little bit, and it's something I think might be very interesting. So we're going to come over here to Cedar Hall, and what I'm going to do is remove a few buildings. I'm going to remove some zoning from this space completely, and I'm also going to remove this small glass roof plaza, because what I think I can do here is something very, very interesting. Now, I'm also thinking I'm going to go ahead and remove this road, and I'm going to replace it with a large sandstone pedestrian street with grass and trees, because there's not really any need for traffic to come off this roundabout into the city center. I'm actually considering, well, actually no, we're not going to do the trees down the middle, because again, we're trying to create this sort of this valley of nature that leads you to Cedar Hall itself. And so in doing this, what I can do is go to my lane arrows and just make sure this is all set up correctly, so traffic can still take a left turn into, Cedar Hall itself if emergency vehicles or service vehicles need to do that. And I also want to go ahead and just bring this intersection a little bit closer together so that we don't have as much of this concrete right in the middle. So bring all of these guys right up as close as they can go, and I think that looks pretty solid. So I want to do this again, and this time I'm going to do something that is perhaps going to look a bit weird, but I'm going to bring a large sandstone pedestrian street with grass right through the middle of this roundabout, and I'm going to do the same thing right here as well. And I'm doing this for a very specific reason, but I'm also realizing that when I was changing this roundabout back to 4-lane roads, I may have forgot to change this little section. So very quickly, let's just go ahead and change you into a 4-lane road, and we'll use Zone It, which is a new mod that we're using today, to set the zone radius to 0, which means that these roads don't actually have any zoning on them. And I'm actually going to do the same thing right down here. Collisions are off, which is perfect. So all of this is going to have 4 lanes with a zone radius of 0. And then what we can do is go around and control click every single one of these intersections to make sure that they're set up correctly. But I also want to make sure that lane 2 can turn left here. Now we do want traffic to be able to go straight on into these pedestrian streets. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to make sure that service vehicles such as ambulances, police cars, and even hearses can go ahead and get into this space. So let's just go around and control click all of these intersections as well and make sure that they are all set up correctly. Although this one, for example, we actually don't want you turning to the right, and we don't want you turning to the right either. The only way to get to these pedestrian streets is going to be from these main entrances to the roundabout. In fact, in this case, that's the only way to do it because this is also a pedestrian street. And so, with just a little bit of terrain painting to cover the grass in this space, we can continue to get to work. And this is where things are going to get a little bit interesting, because I want to go into the Parks and Plazas tab. I want to go to this right here with the pedestrian area plazas, and I want to grab the small glass roof plaza, which we did have up here, but I want to put it in the middle of the roundabout. And I want to put it in the middle of this roundabout as well. And you can start to see what we're going for. We have these archways in the middle of the roundabouts that, again, sort of frame the road that leads up towards City Hall. And that is a lot of what I'm doing with Nerdholm, is I'm trying to create sort of this frame, this still frame that leads you up this road. And I think this looks really cool. We are having some traffic problems, admittedly, but we'll deal with those shortly. That is something else I want to do today. But I do want to make this place look as interesting as I can possibly make it. I'm also realizing that there is a good number of people that are moving through this space, which is very cool, but it is also slowing down the roundabout a little bit. So let's experiment with some traffic lights on the roundabout. I might regret that, but we'll give it a shot and we'll see how things go. There's not actually all that many people moving through here, so we'll just do traffic lights on this roundabout and we'll see how that goes. I might regret this. There is a solid chance I'm going to regret this, but for now, it's okay. Now, what I do want to do is I want to go in here and search for bollards, and I want to use the circle mode in the prop line tool to essentially place a bunch of bollards around these roundabouts. So something sort of like this, although it isn't exactly central. So we can grab this guy, just move it down a little bit. Something like, I suppose, that I think is probably good enough. It's not perfect, but it does the job. And as you can see, we now have a bunch of bollards that really nicely surround the space. And what I might want to do, actually, is go in and just remove a few of these guys, because obviously vehicles have to get in and out of this space. So we'll delete those guys, and we'll go to this end and sort of do exactly the same thing. We'll delete those guys. And so we have a way for vehicles to drive in there, but we also have bollards surrounding the entire thing, so it feels more like a pedestrian zone. So now we just need to do the same thing at this end. And honestly, that is about all I'm going to do with this space. I'm not going to go too crazy with it. I'm not going to over design it. I'm also wondering why this little section here looks so strange. It doesn't, like, it sort of bulges. Oh, it's because I haven't upgraded that road. That's why. Okay. Let's very quickly fix that. I didn't realize I missed a section. There we go. And what we can do, of course, is go in and just update that intersection. And we can probably update this guy as well to make sure that everything is okay. Left turns only, straight on only. And now we can go in and, I suppose, get the bollards around this. So once again, we click right in the middle. We go out to about here in as straight a line as we can manage. And this is a little bit offset, but that's okay. We can sort of bring it over, bring it down a little bit. And once again, I think, honestly, that is probably about as good as it needs to be. And then we can go in with the Move It mod and just select these bollards and delete them. And then down here, we can do exactly the same thing, select the bollards and delete them. And there we go. We have essentially some pedestrian zones in the middle of these roundabouts. And it does create this beautiful sort of, oh my God, that's so many people. Oh, that looks amazing. I love that. I love seeing that many people go through here. You know what's going to make it better though, is getting some buildings in here. And we have some commercial demand, we have some office demand, so let's fill this space with offices, and let's fill, I suppose, this space, or sorry, that space with commercial, and the back space with offices. And then a little bit of commercial just down here, just to sort of tie everything together. And in doing this, we should start to see, once again, that sort of valley of nature and buildings and arches. All of it bringing us right up to City Hall. Now, as beautiful as all of this is, and I will say, if I do say so myself, I do think it is kind of beautiful, it of course does have some problems, specifically traffic. It is getting a little bit out of hand, especially since we have just passed 20,000 Sims, which is a pretty big deal. I feel like Nerdholm has grown very quickly in the last little while, which is lovely, but the traffic is getting to be a problem. And if we have a look at our traffic flow, it's currently 72%, which is kind of terrible. So I want to try and improve that. And so I'm going to turn my attention to this intersection right here between Dale Hills and Jones Park. Specifically, I'm going to remove a little bit of zoning right here on this corner. We'll get rid of the buildings as well. And we are going to bring a section of 4-lane road right out of here. Now, I do want zoning on this, so we'll bring it out about, let's say 40 units for the time being, and I'm going to go and update the lane arrows so that they're all correct. And I'm also going to just update the intersection itself to be a little bit straighter at the corners there. It is a big old empty intersection. We could probably put some details in there, but for now, this does the job, and that's okay. Now, what I want to do is connect this to a highway, and I want to put the highway sort of down here. Now, the way I'm going to do this, I'm not really too sure about, because my thinking to keep things simple is that we bring this road out, say, another 20 units, maybe another 20 again, so this should be about 80 units in length. I also don't want trees on there. If I could get rid of those, that would be kind of great. So collisions do need to be back on there. So something like this, but I also want to go ahead and say, you know, give me a bit of anarchy and a 45-degree road that goes this way and a section of road that goes this way. And that is the section that connects to the highway. And the reason I want to do this is because I can bring this road straight up here and continue it straight up there and in to this intersection here on the right that I ever so slightly messed up there. So now we have space to expand Jones Park and Willow Gardens if we really want to. But it also gives us, once we have a highway connection, it gives us two ways that the highway traffic can filter. It can go straight towards Old Factory Square, and arguably, we could push this road straight through so it can go straight to Old Factory Square. but it also has access to this roundabout, and this roundabout, and of course, by virtue of this connection, this roundabout. So this just gives us more options for traffic to filter a little bit. So what I need to do is I need to, I suppose, figure out how this is all going to connect together. So what I'll do is pause, and I'm going to go in and just delete a massive amount of the highway here, all the way back to this little bridge. Everything in between can just go away. And I think the way I'm going to try and measure this is relatively simple. Well, it might be relatively simple. If I get myself a 2-lane road and I turn on road guidelines, this is obviously sort of a center point right here. But what I'm thinking is, if I remember right, if I do something like, let's say, this and this, how far apart are the connections from this highway? Does that line up, or do they have to be closer? Interesting. Okay, so that doesn't work at all. Okay, well, that's fair enough. Now we know. So what I can do instead is 10 units this way and 10 units that way. And I believe the connection we're looking for is, in fact, this one. So now, does the highway connect? It does. So all I need to do is connect everything back together, and suddenly we're fine. So we'll put the interchange right there, the good old 3-way intersection. We'll take out these guys. And all I need to do is reconnect the highway. And so, just like that, with very little work at all, really, we have a second highway entrance for the city of Nerdholm, which I think is going to be very, very useful for the city. I feel like our Sims are eventually going to learn to appreciate that they have a second highway entrance over here. Now, traffic around Oak Garden is still quite terrible, and admittedly, I think the reason for that is simply the traffic lights that we have right here, which is frustrating because I like the traffic lights. I like that they're here. I like that we have people walking through the center of the roundabout. I think that's interesting. I think that's different. The problem is, I don't know that it's necessarily worth the headaches that we're seeing with regards to traffic. Now, admittedly, traffic flow is up to 77%, and it is certainly a lot less red around here than it used to be. It's up to 78%. At one point, I'm pretty sure I saw it at 79%, but it could be better. It definitely could be better. Also, why are you abandoned? What's going on here? Building is abandoned because there were no goods to sell. Ah, okay, so we're getting some considerable industrial demand. Okay. We'll deal with that shortly, because I do want to turn my attention towards Dale Hills and these new sections of road that we have here, because we can have some fun with this if we really wanted to, which, to be quite honest, I do really want to. So I'm going to go to this corner right here, and I'm going to get myself, I suppose, I was going to go with this small 4-lane road, but I think what would be better is possibly the 4-lane road with decorative trees from this corner at a 45-degree angle. I want to go like this. And I'm going to have to tidy up that intersection, but if I do this and I sort of punch straight through, we now have some space to expand Dale Hills a little bit further and to get just a few more people in here. We can deal with some of the commercial demand that we have. We can deal with some of the office demand that we have, and I wonder if I can get away with this. Can I bring that road down there? I absolutely can. So that's fine. It gives us space for a new district in here, which may or may not be at a 45-degree angle, similar to Dale Hills. I also want to fix this because it is a little bit nasty looking. There we go. I think that looks a little bit better. And we can, of course, go to lane selector and control click just to make things a little bit nicer there. Not too sure how well that intersection is necessarily going to work, but that's okay by me. We can experiment and see how things go. Now, what I'm going to do is get myself some 2-lane roads with sidewalks, and very, very simply, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do the same thing right about here. We're going to go straight across like this, and in doing that, we're just filling this new space. Arguably, we could sort of do the same thing right here, but I think what I'll do instead is just bring this over like that, and this guy, I'm tempted to just connect down like this to fill up this space. So let's just do that. Let's just circle around like that and connect up the space. And that does now give us a bit of new building space in Dale Hills. I also want to bulldoze this because I do want to fix the zoning on this avenue. And I would also like to bulldoze, I guess, all of this and fix that as well. Oh, that does not want to play nicely at all. Okay, let's try this the other way around from that side. That's acceptable. I'll allow that. Now let's see, that junction's fine. These junctions here are going to need a little bit of love. We'll just make them a little bit more square. And same with this guy as well. Make it a little bit more square. And then, of course, we want to go in with the lane selector again and just update the junctions there to make sure everything's okay. And honestly, I think a little bit of a giveaway sign there and a little bit of a giveaway sign there is probably fair enough. This bit, I think, probably does need traffic lights, given that it's a 4-way intersection, but the rest of this is totally fine. So let's get some pipes in here, and let's get some building going. We'll keep it relatively simple. We'll just bring pipes sort of this way, pipes this way, and I'll bring some pipes over here, just a little something like this. And I suppose we want to go straight down or straight up this this road. So just like that. And then we can bring this down. And can I get it to that corner? I absolutely can. There we go. So this new area has all of the water that it's going to need. We'll just connect these two together as well because I can. And so now we can go ahead and start zoning it. And we'll keep it simple. We'll do what I always do. We'll go ahead and say that I want some commercial along this avenue. I want some offices right along here. And I'm going to say commercial in this space, so we get a little 2x2 building, and some offices in this space for another 2x2 building. Offices here, so we get a 2x3. And I want some commercial here for a 2x2. And the rest of this here can be some offices. And that'll just fill up these corners quite nicely. The little space that's open will be a lot smaller. Same with over here, and essentially we'll do the same down this way at some point. But for here, a little bit of commercial, just like that. And actually, well, I almost wonder if we should turn zoning off on this avenue so that we can just build right back from this road, but we'll leave it be for now. In fact, I think what I can probably do is a little bit of commercial here and some offices, in fact, just residential right here. We can do a little corner park thing. We can do some detailing in all of these open spaces. And I guess we'll just go ahead and fill, you know, a bunch of these awkward spaces with a combination of commercial and office zoning, just to make sure that it all builds up quite nicely. So we'll go like this for some commercial. We'll go like this for some commercial. And we'll now start to just put a bunch of residential into this space as well. And what we can do, thanks to this little gap that we have here, is actually go ahead and continue the little pedestrian space that we have around here. So just a simple path goes from bottom to top and from bottom to top. And I am going to cut across the middle of these just so I can align them better with the roads. So we'll select some nodes here. We'll bring this guy down to that spot, bring this guy down to that spot, and bring these guys up to meet the sidewalk on these roads. And that just looks a little bit neater. And that's probably something I want to do the entire way down here, actually. So let's do that very quickly. And there we go. We have an expansion for Dale Hills that's working out quite nicely. The population is almost 22,000 Sims, and the flow of traffic at the moment is 79%, which is, well, it went down to 77 a little bit there, but is not too bad. We actually do still have a slight tailback at this roundabout here, but it is less than it used to be, which says to me that we are seeing traffic opting to use these new avenues to get into and out of the city, which is taking some of the traffic away from the central roundabouts in Oak Garden. Now, I am seeing some complaints coming up for garbage, which is interesting and makes sense because, as I've mentioned, Empire Hills right here is not really enough to sustain a city that's growing the way, Nerdholm here is growing. So I think we need to start looking into alternatives for our industry. And what I'd like to do is come up to this space right about here. And I'm considering using this little space as sort of an industrial port. I don't know that that makes too much sense. This is sort of rapid water. It's barely a waterfall. I just don't know how safe it would be for that to be a port. But I do like the idea, kind of having some industry just up here, kind of away from Cedar Hall. I think it would be interesting because we can use the European theme for the industry to have it feel like it's old industry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and select buildings, props, and trees with move it. And I'm going to select essentially all of the rocks and trees and logs in this space, and I'm going to delete them. And I'm going to do the same right here, and I'm going to do the same right here, and I'm going to do the same right here as well. So all of that can go away, which gives us a really nice clear space to work with. And I'm wondering whether or not I want to just straighten this off completely. I don't think it's going to look amazing if I do, but my thinking here is that what I could do, for example, is play into some of the angles and, parallel roads that we have here. So if I was to bring this road over here, for example, this road isn't going to stay, but for example, it comes over like this. We'll take away this part just to use this road as sort of a measuring thing. What I can do is go, say, 24 units there. I can go 10 here, down like this. And I can use this road to put some kind of key along here. I can go 135 degrees here, get a nice parallel section. I can go 135 here, possibly. Not really. This might be a slightly different angle, but that's okay. I can go something like 150 right here to, say, that spot. And essentially, I can just have keys that line this entire space. And I think what I'll also do is use these road guidelines and go, say, let's see, what is that? 5. We'll go, you know what? We'll go 10. We'll go 10 right there, and we'll go something like 10 right there. And if I chop out these parts, we can have some nice curving keys in the corners there. So that's going to be 10 right there, and that is going to be 10 right there. Chop out those parts. And if I use this as a guide, we should end up with something relatively nice. I don't want to say it's going to be the nicest thing in the world, but it should be okay. So now if I select some nodes, what I can do is grab all of these guys, and I'm going to level them out for now. Eventually, they might all be different heights, but just for now, we'll bring them all up to that height. And I suppose what I want to do is go into the landscaping disasters options, into the water structures, and actually, no, into bridges and piers, because I want to use either the simple seawall or the simple city key. And over here, I use the simple city key. So we'll use that one again. And essentially, it is going to be a very, very simple process where we are going to want to go something like this, and then something like this, and something a little bit like this out to here. Let's see, I think that's about the same distance as well, and something a bit like this. And basically, we connect all those corners together, and we should end up with something that really nicely outlines this body of water. So connect those guys and connect those guys as well. This whole section, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it, to be quite honest. I have no idea how that's going to connect together, but we'll figure that out. For now, once again, we'll select all of this and we'll just go ahead and bring it up to this height. And honestly, it doesn't look too bad. It really doesn't look too bad. I think the curves here kind of help a little bit. And actually, I wonder if we should just get rid of all of this and just do one big sweeping curve. That might be the way to go. Although I do think we want to bring this guy down just a little bit. Something like that. And then I wonder if I can get away with this. Something just like that. I think that looks a lot better. I'm going to have to push the water back, but I do think that looks a lot better. So with this new key done, we have some choices that we need to make. We need to decide where everything is going to go and what everything is going to be. So I'm going to start down here at this little section that sticks out, and I'm going to use, I think, some small industry roads because I think they look kind of interesting. And I just want to go ahead and essentially outline this entire space. Now, I'm not too sure how well this is necessarily going to work. The corners are just about acceptable, but that seems okay to me. We can just level everything to the same height, which it is, I suppose. It doesn't necessarily look like it's the same height, but apparently everything absolutely is the same height there, which I'm not too sure how much well, no, it wasn't the same height. Never mind. Let's just level all to the height of that node in the background. There we go. So we have these corners neatened up a little bit. And what I can do with those is go in with a brush and paint in some concrete, or in this case, I think some gravel might look a little bit better. So we'll go around these edges and just fill all of the space with gravel to get rid of the sand and grass that we can see in there. And I do think that is going to help this place just feel a little bit more grungy, which is sort of what I'm going for. Not really sure what's going on with this corner, but honestly, not too worried about it. What I do want to do is start looking at all the different services that we're going to need in here. A solar updraft tower. Ooh. A solar updraft tower generates a lot of power, but it also fits perfectly on this pier. So actually, I'm 100% okay with that, because I think from a distance, it does look kind of weird, but I like that. There's a town in Northern Ireland. My family originally comes from there. I don't, but it's a town called Carrickfergus, and there is a castle right on the water, right on the loch, and you can get this view from the castle just up the coast of something similar to this. You get the chimney stack of a power plant. So I kind of like this. I like that you can be, well, how would I describe this? I like this from a sort of nostalgic purpose of going to Carrickfergus when I was a kid and being out there at the castle and looking up and seeing the chimney stack of the power plant and wondering what that was. Aesthetically speaking, I don't think it's the nicest thing that you would have essentially tourists walking up and down here, and what do they see in the distance but this giant solar updraft tower. It's not good from a tourism point of view, but I think from just an interesting things to look at point of view, it's an interesting thing to look at. So we'll go ahead and put that there, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and fill all of this space with gravel as well. In fact, this time we will do pavement around this thing, just to be a little bit different when compared to what's on the outsides of it. And there we go. So that just fills that space really, really nicely. And what I want to do with the rest of this is I think I'm going to put some roads right along this quay, and I'm going to have them go right up to there. And I wonder, can I get a little curve going around this corner? Is that something we can maybe do? Can we get this to look like it follows the curvature of the quay? Or is this going to look a little bit silly if I do this? It doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look too bad. What we will need to do is once again go and put the gravel between the road and the quay, which is just like that. And this is just going to be, it is going to be an industrial space. It is going to be an industrial space. And thinking about it, we actually do need this to be a right angle because I want industrial buildings right next to each other the entire way up and down this quay. And I want to go and essentially double that up a little bit. So we're going to go back like this, and I'm going to grab myself a medium industry road and do this right here. And honestly, same right here. And I think what I'll do is connect these guys together and do a little medium industry road right there as well. So something like this with a medium industry road right there, which means this quay actually needs to come back a little bit, which makes sense. It doesn't actually need to be where it was right there. So something like this, nothing too crazy, just something relatively simple. And I am once again going to flatten all of this. So all of it to that height. And we'll hit it with a smoothing brush just to tidy things up a little bit. And that is probably going to be the last time that I flatten anything in this space, because now we can start playing with the landscape and the hills. But the reason I'm flattening this part is because this is going to be a district, and it is going to be European themed. So I want to try and encourage the growth of buildings that look like old European factories, and I want them to be on the waterfront, which is going to be an interesting contrast to the solar updraft tower, but that should be okay. Let's go ahead and set Willow Hills to have the European style, if it would let me select it, which it doesn't seem to want to do. Hello, there we go. So European is going to be the style, and we can go in and just say that all of this is going to be industry. And then we can go to these spaces and say that all of this can be, well, it can't all be waste transfer facilities, but it can be recycling centers just in there. And in this middle space, we can go ahead and say fire station, and we can go ahead and say either we can do a medical clinic or we could do a little police department. And I feel like a police department is probably the way to go there. So this is going to help with some of our garbage problems, and it's also going to help with our demand for industry. But we also have to figure out how we're going to connect to this space. And I'm very tempted to use this same intersection. It will be very busy if I do this. It'll be tremendously, tremendously busy if I do this. But it does give us a really nice straight shot to the highway for all of the traffic going to and from this industrial space. So I'm kind of willing to do it for that reason, and that reason alone. I'm just not 100% sure how I'm going to connect this all together. I'm actually thinking right there. That's some very, very small intersections either side of that, but it does look interesting, doesn't it? And it does present an opportunity for me to do a little curved section of road for some reason, which I haven't really done enough of. So I'm actually kind of here for this. I'm kind of curious to see if this works and what this might look like. So we'll give that a shot. We'll try it. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how terrible of an idea this kind of intersection really is. Although, thinking about it, I probably do want to continue roads the entire way along this quay. Although we also probably want to separate some spaces, don't we? We don't want commercial buildings right next to industry. So, well, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. This might actually be a terrible, terrible idea. But for now, we'll go ahead and say that you guys all give way to all of that traffic. And, well, we have way too many lanes and all of this, don't we? It is kind of, it is kind of silly. Maybe what we do is we will just change these guys back to some normal roads right there. And we can go ahead and just extend the industry to here with a little bit of lane selection. So that, I guess, will do the job. Let's get some pipes in here and let's just see what happens. And so hopefully this little bit of industry will help some of the demand for goods that we have in the main section of Nerdholm. But the problem that I'm seeing is that we now have this big old space, and I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with it. But I do know that I should probably come up to this corner and I should probably go ahead and get myself a little section of road that goes from here straight up towards the quay. So something like this will do fine for now. And what I really want to do is use some pedestrian roads, specifically the small sandstone pedestrian street. And I want to see if I can maybe go ahead and just bring this road really nicely along the coast here. Not too sure how well this is necessarily going to go, but I feel like I should try. You know, I want to make this place as nice as it can possibly be. So it's going to be a whole lot of, you know, moving roads around and curving them every which way, just to make them feel like they sort of, I don't know, follow the curvature of the quay, which they certainly don't at the minute. This is actually kind of a mess that I've made right there. So let's take that out and just very quickly we'll try that again. But of course now we have a question. What do we connect the end of this street to? And I'm looking at this intersection and I'm getting what is probably a very dumb idea. But if I was to do this, for example, it would essentially run pretty much to the end of that pedestrian street. Now, this is by no means something I recommend at any point. This is probably it's a terrible idea. But I'm also just, oh, that does not, that doesn't look right at all. Can I move you back a little bit? There we go. Yeah, this looks terrible, to be quite honest. It's it's a little bit dreadful. But I'm gonna commit to this. I'm gonna do this. I'm also gonna bring this guy back just to give us a little bit of a little bit more of a curve on that left-hand turn there. It looks really bad. This is a dreadful idea, but I am going to I'm gonna commit to it because I think it's gonna be fun. So let's just have you, I guess, connect to the pedestrian road a little something like this. We'll take out that bit, and I suppose we can go to node controller and just try to square this off a little bit. Wonder if I can bring you. Ooh, let's not do that at all. We'll just do this. Something relatively simple. Nice little curve right there. And can you go any further forward? You actually can, and I'm going to do that so that we actually have that that concrete right against the quay right there. So that gives us a pretty chunky pedestrian space. It's a bit weird looking, I'll be honest. I think it's safe to say it's a bit weird looking, but I'm kind of here for it. We can bring pedestrians all the way down here, hearses as well, apparently, which I wasn't expecting. And traffic at this intersection, I suspect, is going to be nothing short of a nightmare. But this is fine. It's okay. It's it's probably okay. This space is going to be some kind of park, I think. It's maybe sort of half and half, an actual park and then an industrial park, and then we can continue industry down this way. But all of this is going to be commercial and offices and all of that good stuff. So let's have some fun and let's see what we can fill this space with. And let's see, should this be a continuation of Cedar Hall? I feel like it probably shouldn't. I feel like the pedestrian street is fine, and I do like that we have this pedestrian street, but I don't think we need to be continuing the actual district. So let me just make sure that I haven't done that, which I haven't. And so, yeah, we'll go ahead and figure out what the zoning is going to be in here. So obviously, we will have some sections that are not, you know, filled in. These bits at the end will probably be, again, parks and things like that. But we can go ahead and bring a section of road over like this, for example. And we could bring this guy over as well if we really wanted to. And I think what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to leave those gaps at the end so I can put some pedestrian streets around here. And maybe a little space in there for some kind of park. Maybe this doesn't have to be crazy dense. Maybe this is all this little district is going to be. And I think that's okay. I think that's probably what we should do, is leave a little bit of green space in here. I've been quite good at that, I think, so far, leaving green space in different parts of Nerdholm. So we'll try to continue to do that. And in terms of how this is all going to be connected together, not really too sure, but we'll have this go around like that. And I guess what we could do is a way in right there, a way out right there, and maybe just sort of do that at all of the corners as well. Just a little something something so you can kind of get in at all of the corners. Maybe you can just go straight through right there and straight through right there instead. So those roads aren't actually connected. I think that's okay. I think that does the job. Again, it just creates a little bit of space where people can walk around. And then up here is, well, I suppose what we could do is put a path in here, or I wonder, can I do this? It doesn't love that, does it? It's not really sure how to deal with what I've done right there. Can I bring you back? Oh, no, it really doesn't know what to do here, does it? Interesting. What if I bring you back? No, it really, you know what? We'll just leave that be. It doesn't really know what to do there. So that's fine. We can just use a little street, I guess, to connect these spaces together like that. And that's okay. That's fine. In fact, actually, what we should do is put it right there. And, ooh, this might actually need to be a pedestrian zone to get some buildings in there, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. We'll see how it goes. I think that's fine, though. It's nothing too crazy. It's nothing too fancy. It just sort of does the job. And I think what we can actually do is that right there. We'll just get that little connection straight through, and that should be fine. So, looking at this space, I'm kind of thinking we have a really, really irregular shape. I'm really not sure what to do with it. Although what I should probably do, thinking about it, is go and just turn off collisions and update all of these roads to not have zoning on them. And actually, let's do the same with this guy as well, so that we're not going to be dealing with conflicting zoning on all of these roads. So you as well can go away, and collisions definitely shouldn't be on for that. We'll just turn them on for you and see if I can maybe get rid of the zoning on some of these guys, which I guess isn't the end of the world, but this does give us a bit of neater zoning, which is lovely. And I suppose same thing down here, turn off zoning on that road. So now that things are neatened up a little bit, we can get a better idea of what's going to go where. This is going to be a green space. This will probably be a green space as well. And all of this will be a bunch of buildings. This guy here, actually looking at it, should probably be rebuilt just to make sure that the zoning is actually correct, which it now is. And also that intersection should probably get a little bit of attention just to be a little bit wider. And maybe you can come back a little bit as well. So that works out. That's totally fine. Now this space, this is 100% what I want to focus on here. I also want to smooth it ever so slightly. So in terms of zoning here, we kind of have to pick a road that's going to be the backbone. It could be this one, which actually, in a way, I feel like it shouldn't be this one because this is kind of a major road. But I also love the idea of this being sort of our main road through this space because it sort of ties into Dale Hills. It creates that 45-degree angle. So what I'm about to do is probably really stupid, but I am going to use this as my main road for all of this. And I'm actually going to connect it to that pedestrian street right there because I can. And I'm just going to do something relatively basic, I think. I mean, that connects just fine. Those are all connected just fine. And then this guy can come over and connect like this. So it's going to be quite irregular. It's going to be a really weird space, but I like it. I think it's different, and that's sort of what we're going for here. This guy can connect straight to there, and it does look a bit weird at the end, but that's probably all right. And now what I can do is go back to those pedestrian roads, set them to 0 on the old zoning there, and just get rid of all the bits of zoning that we don't want, which means we can build right up to those pedestrian roads. It does look weird, but it's also irregular, and that's kind of what I want it to be. So let's tidy up some junctions. Let's tidy up this guy, for example. We'll square it off a little bit. We'll tidy up this guy, and I'm wondering, can I tidy up these guys as well? Is that an option to make them look a little bit less nasty, such as this one, which does look a little bit nasty. There we go. That looks much better. That is so much better. And yeah, this is probably fine. I think as long as it has a district policy of Old Town, we can manage. Although, to be honest, I'm not sure what the theme of this district's necessarily going to be, but that's also fine. We'll figure that out. And so with all of the intersections tidied up a little bit, I want to turn my attention to this space, because I sort of have an idea for what we could do here. And we are going to need some zoning for this, and I am going to potentially do something a bit weird, but I'm going to do this. Well, actually, I'm not quite going to do that. I'm going to try and get this nicely in that corner, connect you straight through to there, and delete this bit. And I'm going to bring this guy straight up to, well, I'm going to say actually right there is where I'm going to bring that guy to, because what I can do is continue these roads straight through and connect them to that 4-lane road and connect them to, oh, right in the corner would have been perfect. That's a little disappointing. Okay, bring this guy through to here, bring this guy through to here, and unfortunately, we are sort of met with a bit of a pickle of what to do with the road here, this one in the middle. What exactly are we going to do to make it connect? And I'm not really sure. I'm a little frustrated, to be honest, but I'm curious as well. The distance from there to there is 13. The distance from there to there is 15. If I was to go straight across, well, I can't really get a curve there, can I? Okay. I'll tell you what we'll do then. Let's just do this. Let's do the lazy option. And I guess that's fine. It's not exactly very pretty, but it does the job. And it also gives us a little bit of symmetry in here, sort of, that I can play with. And that's okay. That's totally okay. We can also come into this space and come straight down. But what I'm realizing I should have done here is this. I should have left these gaps. So we're going to take these roads out and we're going to do them again. Oh, I need to redo this entire section of road here, apparently. So connect those guys together and leave a gap of 1 for a pedestrian street and a gap of 1 for a pedestrian street. Or path, I suppose, in this case. And suddenly we have, well, we have a lot going on. We have a whole new space that's getting ready to build, and we have some new intersections that need tidied up just a little bit. And I think these guys are on slopes as well, so let's just try to make sure that it's all nice and neat. And so with all of that done, we now have 3 new districts. And obviously, without any buildings, they're not exactly all that exciting, and without any policies, traffic is gonna go a little bit crazy. But Florence Heights, Primrose District, and Sheffield Heights are potentially about to change everything, which is a phrase that I have probably overused on the channel recently. I did use that phrase in the title of a Software Inc. video, so I'll not get too dramatic with what I'm about to do here, but I think zoning is going to be a big deal on this one. So we'll start, as we always do, with some commercial along some avenues, and we'll bring it down just like this. This space here, annoyingly, I think what I'm actually going to do is just turn zoning off on this small 4-lane road, just so that it's normal on the avenues that we're dealing with. So that actually works much better, and we can just go ahead and do this the entire way around there. And we can do exactly the same thing right here with, I think, some offices here, some offices here, and we'll do some commercial right about there. In this space, we'll do a little touch of commercial with an office, and then a bunch more commercial along that avenue. And we can probably dot some offices into a decent chunk of this space as well. And looking here honestly, given that this zoning is weird, let's go ahead and turn zoning off on that road as well, just to tidy things up a little bit and get some offices right in there. So that's all well and good. I do think we're going to want commercial all the way along here with some offices right down at the bottom. And that's going to really nicely carry us through this central space. But what we can also do is commercial all the way up there and all the way down here. And of course, I guess, well, I was going to say all the way along here as well, but actually what we could probably do is also turn zoning off on this avenue, and it gives us these little spaces for parks and paths. So actually what we'll do here is just go for residential, since we're probably going to see a bit of an increase in residential demand once these buildings start coming together. So we'll get that in there. And what I want to do is I want to get a pedestrian path coming straight down to, I think I'm actually going to use the regular pavement path as well, because they will connect a little bit better to the avenues, but down through all of these spaces. And I'm also going to go just like this. So we do have that little corner nicely outlined, and so I can go and put some trees in there at some point, which will look absolutely lovely. We'll also just change up this space like that, so it's all nice and neat. And I suppose we can let the simulation run, and we'll see how this builds. And while that's going on, I should probably get some pipes in here. So we'll run some over to here, over to there, and back. And that nicely covers most of the space, but we need them down here as well. And then for over here, we'll go straight up this road. We'll go straight up this road. And, well, I guess we can go straight up this this avenue as well to about there. And that more or less nicely covers a lot of that space. We can go straight up to here as well, and straight through into this district and down here as well. And again, it just nicely covers a whole chunk of space with water. So these guys can build. They don't have any style kind of imposed on them right now, but that's okay. I'm not really too worried about that. Although I do wonder if modern city center would be a way to go. Let's experiment with that. Let's say modern city center is going to be Sheffield Heights. And what I'll do to Sheffield Heights is a bunch of commercial and then fill the rest of it with residential, which I'm not sure if residential actually has any buildings in the modern city center theme or style, but we'll find out. And even now, this is actually kind of looking pretty cool. And it is, again, providing a really nice contrast to the older buildings across this avenue. So I love it. Absolutely, absolutely adore it. But let's also just get some traffic enforcement in here. So policies, and we're looking for Old Town. We're looking for Old Town, and we're looking for Old Town. I don't want traffic going crazy and going through these districts. I want traffic to stick to the avenues, which, interestingly, it's already backing up down here a little bit, but that's sort of to be expected. And it's only going to get worse because this space all has to build. So we're going to be busy. And actually, I forgot that Modern City Center had these styles of buildings. So I think Modern City Center is going to be put on Primrose as well, because I think it's going to look really good, especially at this corner right here. I'm very, very excited to see how that goes. And then maybe Florence can be normal. I think we'll stick with a normal style for Florence Heights. You know, I wasn't really thinking this when I went and set the modern city center style on Primrose District, but it makes me really happy that once again we're playing with contrast of the old and the new. We have old European style buildings that are directly facing modern city center buildings. And the modern city center buildings are, I don't want to say they're European, but this one on the corner of this major intersection isn't entirely dissimilar to a building like this. It's just sort of a modern take on a building like that. So it's really cool, and I'm really enjoying playing with with this contrast and just seeing these spaces develop and grow and build, because it is pushing the population to really good places. We're above 25,000 people now. But what I am going to do, and what I realize I have to do, is take this zoning out of here, because that's not somewhere we actually want zoning. That's going to be some kind of park, and arguably this is also going to be some kind of park, so we'll take all of that out of there as well. These guys are going to be allowed to build right up towards the pedestrian street, although maybe we take them back a little bit. Maybe we go back like that, and maybe we go and do the same thing here, and we just turn this all into sort of a nice green space. This corner here, perhaps the same thing should be done. Take out all of the zoning and just have it be a part of the green space that runs along the waterfront. And I think that's kind of what the goal here really is. I want to try and transform the waterfront. I want these buildings set back from it, but I also want the waterfront itself to be busy. We already have people running along here, so I think making it look beautiful and interesting and exciting is definitely the right next step. But before we get to that next step, we do have one pit stop along the way, which is going to be to Willow Hills, because I'm thinking that I'm seeing a lot of demand for goods. There's not enough goods to sell. So what that says to me is that this industrial space needs to expand. So what we can do is we can go ahead and bring a few more of these small industry roads, and we can just go, say, 20 that way. We'll go 20 units this way, and we'll cut across, and we'll cut across here as well. And you know what? We'll go another 10. We'll make it that little bit bigger, right back to about there, and that can just be another chunk of industry. We'll bring the pipes down, across, and back, and then everything in the middle can just be industry, which actually does also need to be a part of the district. So bring that around all of this, and we can bulldoze everything that was building so far to make sure that it matches the district style, and that should deal with a decent chunk of the industrial demand that we were seeing. And so hopefully we're going to see, oh, there it is. There it is. I love, if you are new to the channel, you're not going to know this, but this is my favorite industrial building in City Skylines. Just this old mill looking thing. I absolutely adore it. It looks very similar to a building that I used to work out of. I used to run this channel out of a building like that. So it's my favorite building in City Skylines right there. Now I know I said one pit stop before we go and take a look at the waterfront, but I've realized that we should probably get some metro connections into the 3 new districts and possibly out to our industrial district as well. So what I'm going to do is go into the transport tab, I'm going to go to the metro tab, and I'm going to get myself a few new stations. And I'm thinking I'm going to use the parallel underground metro station, and I'm going to place one, interestingly, we can put one, say, right here to deal with the complaints about buildings being built on pedestrian streets. So we'll put one right there. It's not very far away from this existing one, but that's honestly okay. I'm not really too worried about that. And what we can also do is put one, say, well, anywhere around here. We could go for this spot right about there. And again, very close together, but not really the end of the world there. Also, can I just bulldoze you? I absolutely can. So that's going to give us a metro connection to Sheffield Heights and to Primrose District and the Florence Heights just across the way. But what I'd also like to do is I would like to get one over here in the industrial space. So I think what we'll do for this one is, well, maybe we should use an elevated metro station just to be a bit different, because we haven't used any elevated metro thus far at all, and it would look kind of interesting. So let's do that. Let's use elevated metro for the industrial space, just so we can see some of the metro trains that we have, because thus far we haven't seen them, and they are a different type of train. So we'll do this. We'll we'll do a nice straight slope, and we'll say that this is going to run right to about there, which is not too bad in terms of elevation. And then what we can do is have this guy run along the ground for a little bit to there, and maybe to there, and then it can go underground right about here, and that should be fine. So this is going to run essentially all the way over to, well, wherever I need it to go, really. So it's, if I could get it to go nicely under this road, that would be kind of excellent, but it doesn't really want to play along with me, does it? Okay. Well, that's frustrating. That's fine. We'll just do this and take out about that much. Should be fine. And the connection we're going to use for these guys is going to be the one that's on the outside. So let's just do something a little bit like this for that connection. And let's just do something a little bit like this for that connection, which isn't actually all that great looking, to be quite honest. Maybe what we should do instead is bring this guy out a little bit and then just connect over like this. That definitely looks better. And then we come down and we want to go a little something like, well, let's actually bring you back a little bit and try this again. It'd be nice if the game would stop flashing every time I do this, but there we go. We'll get that connection. And that's going to be a new metro line. So we're going to run from right about here down to right about there. And we're going to come down to here and right up into this station before going all the way back to all of the middle stations here as well. So something like that for the new line. And apparently we have a building here. And apparently you are not in pedestrian area. Interesting. You shouldn't need to be in a pedestrian area, but sure, we'll just get rid of that, I guess. And it's very weird actually the way that was doing that. I wonder if I do this, is that going to solve the problem of the whole not in pedestrian area thing? Hopefully it does. But regardless, we now have these metro connections, and what I can do is go to here and we can get the underground train, and I want to look at it. I want to see what the underground train actually looks like, because I have no idea. I think it's just a London Underground looking train, but we will certainly find out once it decides to show itself, which I'm not sure it wants to. Where exactly is this? Oh, there's a few of them right there. Are they stuck? Why does it look like they're maybe stuck? That's a little odd. Oh, no, they're not stuck. Hold on a minute. Let's have a look. What does the train look like? Ooh, wait a minute. That doesn't look like it at all. That's just a metro. I think that one's just going back to its station to be replaced. Hey, there it is. Oh, that's not bad at all. And so, with the metro built and connecting out to our industrial district, we have, of course, got all of the traffic problems that come with an industrial district being this close to the city center. But that's something we can deal with in the future, because right now I want to turn my attention to the waterfront. I want to fill up all of these empty spaces and make this look a little bit more complete, because these areas next to the cathedral have been sitting empty for a while, and they could definitely do with either some buildings or some parks, some plazas, some promenades even. This space here by Sheffield Heights could probably be turned into something that's quite nice for the residents in Sheffield Heights, and it's the same with these areas along Florence Heights as well. We could turn those into lovely spaces for people to sit and relax. So let's get to it. Let's turn these into beautiful looking spaces, and while we do that, we're gonna ignore the fact that I should probably put buses around a lot of my districts, and that I should probably expand the trams down into Dale Hills. Those are two things I'm very keenly aware of. We're not doing it today. That's all I'm saying. We're just not today. Another day, maybe, but not today. after considerably more work than I care to admit, we have a completed waterfront for our main downtown area, and I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. It is just a lot of trees and bushes and the occasional path that no one's ever going to use, but I still really enjoy how this has turned out, especially the area around the cathedral. We have food courts, we have fountains, we have plazas. I think it just looks fantastic, and I'm so pleased with it, and I hope that you are as well. Unfortunately, we are currently experiencing a bit of a death wave across all of Nerdholm. We are sitting in $4.6 million though, so not everything is bad, but we are definitely experiencing one hell of a death wave, and it'll pass. It'll take time, but it will pass. We do have a decent amount of death care. We have crematoriums sort of dotted around the place. We do have 2 cemeteries that are opening, and for the most part, I think it's just a matter of waiting for the death wave to pass. We're also seeing some traffic problems here as we move towards this entire new part of the city, which says to me that we are probably going to want to get our hands on another highway entrance for the city, but that's something we can do in a future episode, because right now I think the priority is going to be sitting around and waiting for the death wave to pass. And so it is that time again when all that there is left to say is thank you so much for watching, everybody. That is going to do us for today. It has been an absolute pleasure, as always, and as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.